Welcome back to the Colorado Springs Business Podcast. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I am the host of the show. Today, we are sponsored by the Colorado Springs Business Podcast. Let me pull up my ad script real quick. Where is it? Ad read. It says as read. Got auto-corrected there.
Correct, there we go.
All right. Are you looking for a creative and effective way to promote your business? Well, the Colorado Springs Business Podcast might be perfect for you. We create 5 episodes a week, and we'll read a 15 to 30 second ad script at the beginning of every episode promoting whatever you want. Similar to the ad you're hearing right now, your promotion will be on that episode forever as well too. So, as the show grows and people start to binge listen to multiple episodes, you will have that ad in there. And yeah, so that is the ad for today. I think we have some other ads in the works, but that's all. I'm going to introduce our guest. Our guest today is Chuck Bader with, is it Retirement?
Retirement, my insurance team, and the Coaches Collaborative, and True You Now.
Yes, awesome. So go ahead and tell us in a sentence or two what you do.
So what I'm doing currently, the main business, which is one that's working on another business, is insurance and retirement planning. So we write house, car, business, life insurance for individuals and businesses. But the other thing I'm working on, which is actually the end goal, is building a coaching practice and also self-development seminars. So that's kind of the bigger picture.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get into that in this episode. I'm going to roll the intro music.
Roll it.
This is a show where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners who are mostly in Colorado Springs doing things in the community of Colorado Springs. I wonder what this flag button does. Maybe I can hit things and get clips.
Right.
I found out I can actually get clips on my stopwatch with my remote.
Oh, nice.
Like I can just hit it. And then it'll hit every time I hit the button on my remote, it'll lap. So while I'm in an episode, I can be like, this is a good clip. That's a good clip. But
nice.
I tried that last week and I was like, I don't think I can really focus in on the conversation if I'm focusing on trying to get clips.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to lose. I don't want to lose that je ne sais quoi.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You got to stay focused on that.
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. It's one of the things you learn as you start doing a podcast is the listening aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about that. It's picking up on what are they talking about? What are the core concepts that's coming out? Yeah.
Definitely. So Chuck, tell us a little bit about your business. Not in a sentence or two, but let's go into depth of what your business is.
Okay. Well, the insurance side is very easy. It's home and auto insurance, business insurance. Life insurance is the exciting part about that because a lot of people, it's interesting how they have no problem paying, $150 a month for car insurance, $100 a month for house insurance. But when you talk about life insurance and now all of a sudden they're thinking of death and all of this negative stuff. And, you're saying, well, hey, it's $30-40 a month. Yeah, but, but then, oh my gosh, we could go on to hours, the horror stories about what happens when people don't have that, so it's really important to get over the hump, get over your fears, talk to your insurance agent about that, and just put some kind of a policy in place. Because think about this. One thing that always happens in death is everybody is sending the survivors bills, funeral homes, credit card companies, car payments, house payments, bill after bill after bill after bill. So you as the spouse or the father or the bread earner, things like that, you have to think about, okay, if I'm gone, and it's possible, it's not a if situation, it's a when situation as far as death goes. But think about this, okay? So if you're no longer here,
so far it is.
So for that's true, yes, right. We never know, right?
Yeah.
But think about, okay, so if one day, God forbid, you happen to die, and all of a sudden your spouse is getting all these bills coming in, the question you've got to ask yourself is, do I want her to have to work extra hours, maybe hire a babysitter, have somebody else raise my kids while she's struggling to meet these, 5-digit bills coming in? Or would I want to do the right thing and get a life insurance policy right now so that when this happens, she gets a check to not only pay all those bills off in one check, but she's got enough left over to maybe go back to college or maybe provide for the kids' college, things like that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a matter, and I'm just being bold about this because I'm on the bad side of these stories, but it's a responsibility piece. If you're going to be involved in a relationship, whether it's with a spouse or kids or both, whatever, then your responsibility doesn't end at death, even though they say till death do us part. The reality nowadays is what? Till debt do us part.
Okay. I like that pun right there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you got to try to lighten up life insurance, but no, I mean, it really comes down to it. Think about, okay, they're counting on you. And if you're not here to provide that, wouldn't it be nice if at least a check could come over and take your place? That's really what it comes down to.
For sure. And
So,
I'm going to
yeah.
check these levels real quick.
Yeah.
Dude, I love how when you start talking, you just go.
Well, yes. Well, I'm passionate about this, so
Yes.
it's important because I always hear about the bad stories. I met a woman last year who great story, right? She came from Germany with one suitcase at age 16, started off her life, had a husband who died in a car accident, and then within a month, she and her 2 young daughters are on the street, literally. Because he didn't have a life insurance policy to provide a check, and so they're devastated,
There's no if you don't have a life insurance, there's no other way besides that. I mean, there's surely there's like assistance, but I'm sure, of course, you probably don't want to have to go through that route.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a question of, regarding life insurance, do you want the people counting on you to have a life of dignity or disparity? Because there is a system out there called welfare and, Medicaid and things like that. So there are systems, but they're not letting your survivors live. They're just kind of scratching to get by.
For sure.
And
the life insurance kind of not only lets them live, but live comfortably and good, at least for a certain period of time. I mean, depending on how big your life insurance is.
Exactly.
I know I was only paying like $12 a month at one time.
It's so cheap.
And it was $12 a month, but I think it was like $50,000.
Exactly.
It was still something,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and $50,000, that's a lot of people's salaries. I think that's above the average salary.
It is, really, yeah. But I'll just share a good story about it. So one of my colleagues in Utah told me this story that is just amazing. He met with an older couple who they were friends with, and he goes to the whole life insurance discussion for about an hour. They're kind of going back and forth on whether they want it or not. And at the end of the day, the wife says, well, no, I just don't think we can afford it. I just don't think we should get it. And so the guy says, hey, at least I gave you the information to make a well-informed decision, and this is your decision, so this is all I can do. He walks out to the car, starts putting his bag in the trunk, and the husband followed him out. And he says, you know what? I need this. I need this. I need this. So I'm going to come to your office tomorrow morning. I'm going to sign a check. I'm going to sign the application. And in the rules of life insurance, once you do those two things, even if the policy hasn't been approved yet, you are covered. So the cool part is this man came to the agent's office the next morning, filled out the application, wrote the check, and then 3 weeks later is driving home on a country road, slides off a ditch into an irrigation field, and drowns. So here's the interesting thing about it, right? Is that a week later, the agent goes to the funeral, and after the funeral, the wife comes running up to him, and she's just burying her head in his chest, just crying uncontrollably for like 5 minutes. And she's just going, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done this. I can't believe I said no to this kind of stuff. What am I going to do? And she's just thinking all these bills are coming in, and she's got no more husband. She's got no more income coming in. She was devastated. And the cool part was, and this is what I like to do, what I'm doing, is that the insurance agent pulled out a check for $500,000 and said, you are going to be okay. Instantly changed her life, just like that. Instantly changed life. Here she's like devastated. It's like, what are we going to do? And it's like one little paper check made everything okay, and then some. That's why I like doing what I do in life insurance.
For sure.
But that's just one little power of it,
Is that 500,000 something that is that like a whole check? She gets that at once? Or?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And see, here's the other piece, right? And this is what people, we're on a podcast. We're educating people here, right?
Yes.
So what happens when you don't have life insurance? Well, everything has to go through probate. So you're still responsible for house payments and bill payments, blah, blah, blah. And you got to figure this stuff out. The great thing about life insurance, it is instant, tax-free cash that does not have to go through probate. You get a check and you spend it any way you want to. Nobody can say anything about it. That's the power of that stuff.
What would you do if you got $500,000?
It's funny now you're promoting my company, right? So American National has these little cute videos they've done on that. What would you do if you had $500,000?
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes. It's from our cash back thing, but it's also on this as well. Yeah. But no, the thing that you want to do, and this is the number one thing you want to do, and this is why I love American National, because in order to, let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
So here's what we do is with American National, you write a home policy, you write an auto policy, and then if you write a life insurance policy, they give you 5% off the house and car insurance, which helps pay the premium. So back to your question, what would you do with that? The main thing you want to do with life insurance is pay the house off. Because you don't want your loved ones being homeless, like the lady from Germany,
I would put some of it in investments. And
yes.
But paying off the house is an investment.
Yes, it is, because you build equity over the years.
Yes.
I mean, at some point you can get a second mortgage if you need to, reverse mortgage once you're over 65. Yeah, pay off the house first and foremost. Make sure you're not homeless. Bottom line.
That's a good thing to do.
But then after that, and I want to promote this, right? So for the listeners out there, you want to go to lifehappens.org, LIFEHAPPENS.org, because that is a nonprofit organization. No insurance company owns that. It was a great legacy piece by a man named Marv Feldman, who was an amazing life insurance agent. And his son thought, you know what? People are afraid to meet with life insurance agents. They're confused when they meet with life insurance agents. How about we empower people to be able to do the research on their own, to get the videos, the real life stories, run their own needs assessment calculators, run their own projections of what it's going to cost, do it on their time in their home. And now with COVID, it's even easier. So tell everyone to go to lifehappens.org and just go through the calculators, watch the videos, read the stories. It's amazing, because then you'll be empowered on, wow, here's what family XYZ did when this person passed away. So it's a great tool, lifehappens.org. That's a little free plug for those guys. Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to have to check that out.
So now let's talk about life insurance, right? Because really, when you look at it, it's really death insurance, but they couldn't call it death insurance because nobody would buy it, right? But years ago it was death insurance. Now it's what we call life insurance, and American National Insurance is one of the few that has what are called living benefits. What is a living benefit? So the great thing about these policies now, right, is that people back in the old days would have a stroke and die. So you'd have a life insurance policy, heart attack and die. Well, now they're living because of medical technologies. So we as an insurance company and an industry got smart and said, hey, if somebody has a heart attack, but they can't really work anymore, or a stroke and they're debilitated, or even if they get in a car accident and can't take care of themselves.
So it's actually life insurance.
It's actually life insurance, yes. Yeah, so if you have any of those conditions, we cut you the same check, instant tax-free cash right to you, so that you can pay your medical bills off. Or let's say, and this is another great story.
Isn't that what health insurance is, though?
To a certain degree, yes. Okay. Yeah, but it's like, why not also have money on top of that?
Yeah, well, why not? Yeah.
And here's the cool part. So we had one guy who was a grandfather, and he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, going to die in less than 2 years. So he qualified to get the money out of his life insurance policy while he's alive. Now, the cool part about this is that he takes the entire family to Europe on an amazing first-class vacation, so that instead of his family going to a hospice, seeing this man hooked up to tubes as their last memories of grandpa, they've got these amazing videos and pictures and memories of what he had done.
Yes.
That's freedom and choice. Again, that's dignity, not desperation. That's what life insurance does.
Nice.
So don't be afraid of it, for crying out loud. Talk to me, talk to somebody about it. But make sure that, your car is protected, your house is protected. People have insurance on cell phones, but not on yourself. Come on, man. Oh my gosh.
I don't have insurance on my cell phone.
We're going to fix that in about 10 minutes here.
And cell phone insurance?
No, on you. We're going to get you insured, yes. No, I'm just kidding, but yeah. But no, the great thing about it is that I can actually get people life insurance within about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, how do you do that? Well, we fill out the app, you write a check, and as long as it's approved, you're covered.
Nice.
It's not a big process like people think it is,
No, for sure.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really good at showing why people need what you do.
Exactly.
And I think that's awesome. So I'd love to really dig into the sales side, since this is a business podcast as well.
Yes.
So what do you think have been some of your greatest resources for being a good salesman, essentially?
Okay. So here's the lesson I learned years ago, which is the one that is the master lesson of everything else. Facts tell, stories sell.
Yes.
So I could tell you all the complicated blah, blah, blah of life insurance and lose you, which is what happens when agents do that. Or I could tell you stories. And it's like, just like we talked about the couple, and the husband dies and the wife gets a check for $500,000. That's what sells it, because then
the
you hear
emotional
about it.
part. And what you said is emotional and logical. Facts are logical.
Exactly.
And then the stories are, and I actually call it story selling.
Yes.
Hashtag story selling.
Right. Anything you do a story, but it's got to be, so buying decisions are made emotionally. They're not logical. It's all about the emotion. Do I feel this?
The logic backs it up.
The logic backs it up, yes.
And then they make the decision off of the emotion.
Well, look at this, right? And this has been going on for years. When they sell alcohol, what do? Nice, good-looking people at a club having a whole lot of fun, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, how about the downside of alcoholism and spousal abuse and all that? You don't see that in those commercials. No, it's the emotional sex and alcohol. Yay.
Because if you're trying to sell something, you don't have someone have a fun and then they get in their car and drive home and wreck.
Right,
you might though. That actually, if I was an alcohol company, I might pivot and go that way.
Interesting.
Because that might be smart. I think it would it's one of the purple cow kind of things. Like, it's doing something left field.
Exactly.
But it's also I think it's showing that you care, and I think that builds brand. And if you're in it for the short term, those other commercials might be good. But I think if you're like, if I owned an alcohol company, I would do that. I
Right.
honestly would, because you're building brand and you have that equity over time. And if you're in it for the long haul, to really build something that actually means and helps people, because
Yes.
you should know the downsides of your product if you're selling something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that'd be cool. That was just a little side little thing, but yeah, I think I might do that.
Right, right. But
when
let's
it comes
talk
to
about
alcohol.
Let's talk about the other side. So corporate responsibility, and this is a great thing. There's a new thing that people haven't really heard about called a B corporation, a benefit corporation. So back in the old days, you had your S corporations, your C corporations,
Yes.
and your nonprofit corporations. Then somebody got smart and said, you know what, and especially nowadays, right? Instead of a nonprofit organization trying to always beg for money, and I did that for 20 years for them, and I love doing it, but it's tough and it's inconsistent. So somebody got this brilliant idea. How about a B corporation, a benefit corporation, which means that you form a for-profit C corporation or S corporation, and then you form your own nonprofit that you support, and then you take the profits from A to give to B to make sure you're funding this. And the cool part is now you're doing something good in the world.
It's like an ABC kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
Yes.
That doesn't violate any laws or anything?
No, we just got it approved in Colorado like 6 years ago or something.
Okay.
But
Sweet.
what you want to do on that, again, these are plugs. So you want to contact the Better Business Bureau of Colorado Springs and speak to Jonathan Liebert, the CEO, at 63. I forgot the number, but bbb.org.
Yeah, it's like 2 blocks down from here.
Yeah, 2 blocks down there, yeah. But he's actually doing classes. So they formed an entire corporation called CS. My gosh, it's been so long.
Is it the social impact stuff?
It's the social impact stuff. Yes,
sweet.
Jonathan's going to kill me. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm out of touch.
I think I got a sticker somewhere. I can pull it out.
Yeah,
I'll pull
I think
it
it's
out.
like CI. What is it? CI for SI? I think, yeah, it's CI for SI. But if you just go to bbb.org, you'll find it on the website. They promote it quite well.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to get in business, or if you're already in business, or the cool thing is we're finding CEOs who've retired or executives who've retired are just kind of playing golf. And it's like, I need my life to mean something more.
Yes.
Well, you've got all this experience. There's this opportunity, and we plug them into that. And then it's like, now they got a new sense of fulfillment.
Sweet.
So, yeah, that's huge.
So how long have you been doing the insurance stuff?
I'll be 5 years with my own agency this October as the agency
Nice.
owner. Yeah.
And that agency is yours, so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's nice to be your own boss, to work your own hours. But the more fun thing is to be able to run it the way that you know works.
Yes.
Unlike corporate control that says you have to do A, B, and C. It's like I listen to people, I hear their stories, I know what they're tuned into, and I can build my agency to educate them to make a well-informed decision. That's what I've come to do over 5 years. So yeah, that's the fun part.
So how did you go from working for someone else to having your own agency?
Oh, this is big. This is big. This is
Nice.
big. Right. Okay. So life is all about those little decisions that you don't think are consequential, but they're huge. So to put this in a nutshell, 29. Well, whatever year it was, 1988, I was hired by the Postal Service. And it's a boring job. You sort mail all night long. And all of my coworkers listening to music and radio and DJs, which doesn't do anything to increase your market skill in the marketplace. So I did that too for about 5 years, and I got bored of it. And I thought, well, I love the library. Thomas Jefferson Foundation, Ben Franklin started that. The public library system rocks. Tony Robbins, Og Mandino, Brian Tracy, all these people we've heard of got their start at the library. So
Really?
if you're not plugged into the library, go to the library. And so I did, and I'm checking out fiction books because I didn't even know what self-development was at the time. I just thought, well, I'm tired of radio. How about I hear something fun? So I'd hear fictional stories, and then one day, it's like those things that change your entire life. I'm walking down the library. I'd listen to very much every fiction book they had on the shelf because
Nice.
you're doing this for 8 hours a night, and I turn the corner, which is actually figurative and literal. I just thought about that.
Nice.
And I see this book that says, "See You at the Top" by this guy named Zig Ziglar. And it's like, Zig Ziglar, is that like a name or whatever?
Yeah.
And so I was curious, and I checked it out. And I don't like to use the term changed your life, but it changed my life. It's like that man
For sure.
told me about this whole new world out there called self-development. You know, here's a guy from Yazoo City, Mississippi, who was a struggling salesman, and one guy believed in him and turned his life around. And then he took those principles and he shared them. But then I heard that, and it's like, wow. At the time, I thought all I could be was a truck driver, a postal worker, and I was kind of limited to this certain destiny throughout life to be blue collar and not be able to own a business someday. And then these guys started telling me, and then I'd listen to Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and Jack Canfield and Og Mandino and like 50 others. And the thing that I saw about that was you kind of thought, okay, well, who do I listen to? And the interesting thing is the difference between a Zig Ziglar and a Tony Robbins and a Brian Tracy is different professors in college. So bottom line, if you went to college to learn math and you went to 3 different professors, they may speak about it differently, but the bottom line is it's all math. So whether you're hearing from Zig Ziglar, Mary Kay, Tony Robbins talk about self-development, they're all the same neuroscience principles.
Yes.
They're just saying it in a different language in a way that may fit for you.
You connect to whichever one you tune in with the best is you'll be able to listen to the best.
Exactly, yeah. But it doesn't matter which one you listen to because basically they're all saying the same thing.
For sure.
And here's the cool part about it, right? And this is where my company's coming in, True You Now. Let's find out who truly you are right now so you can start pursuing that. The way we do that, and this is where I love your story, and I want to plug Andrew here because you gave an amazing presentation of 1 million cups, yes. And so when I saw you on stage and you are openly sharing your, and you, is it okay to talk about this?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, because you shared this on the story, but I mean, this is powerful because you sharing your story empowers someone else to share their story. So you get on the stage and you're talking about being abused as a child, strapped to a chair, enduring this kind of stuff, seeing trauma in your teens, things like that. And now all of a sudden, here you are building your business, not out on the street or not thinking you can only be working at McDonald's or minimum wage, whatever, but you see a bigger vision. And the thing that impressed me about you is that most people to do this, like me, would have to hear somebody else talk about that, apply their principles and try to copy and paste. You didn't really do that, if I understand it right. You just knew that you had a bigger vision. And because you had this bigger vision and a purpose, what happened behind things doesn't matter what's happening ahead of things. And that's why I love Jim Rohn, right? And this is another power lesson, guys. One of the things that Jim Rohn said that Tony Robbins, on the night that Tony Robbins became homeless, right? So December, when Tony was 17 years old, on December 24th, his mother and he had a big argument and mom kicks him out. So instead of Merry Christmas, it's like, you're homeless now, right? And so Tony's out on the streets and he's like, what am I going to do? I've got no home. I've got no resources. And the thing that came into his mind was something that Jim Rohn said to him. And this is your power punch lesson for today. Jim Rohn said, the quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you. Tony being kicked out and being homeless. The power of your life is what you choose to do with what happens to you. Now we go from reacting to responding. And so you take the situation and Tony said, okay, here is the situation, but what am I going to do about it? Am I going to be cowardice and am I going to crawl in a hole? Am I just going to go into drugs and alcohol because I feel bad and the world isn't fair and all that kind of crap? It's like, no. It's like, he learned from Jim Rohn. He learned some basic principles. He realized, okay, I can either choose to wallow in this stuff or I can choose to do little things, not huge things, but just to find somewhere to live, to find some kind of a job, to read more books, to seek more opportunities, and he turned his life around.
Yes.
But yeah, power lesson is, again, it's not what happens to you, it's what you choose to do with what happens to you that determines the quality of your life. That's a huge lesson.
Well, 100%. Yeah,
that's what turned Tony
around.
And
a lot of people, they like to blame everyone else, and they just need to take responsibility a little bit. Yeah. And I would beg to differ. I think I did do something similar. I did learn from a bunch of different people, kind of like when you discovered self-development is what I meant. Yeah. I've listened to lots of audiobooks on self-development. I've listened to lots of podcasts. I've had some really good influences. I didn't have to go to the library for it, but it was in my palm of my hand, essentially. So that's the beautiful thing about the technology now, but everyone has one in the palm of their hand, and not everyone does that, though. So so it's really about seeking something better, I was not happy with my life, and I really wanted to just make it. I've always had big ambitions, though. I guess not always, but like since it feels like always, because it was like since I was a teen. I've had big visions to do big things, and I've always had a drive in me. So I've had that drive, and but I've listened to a lot of Tony Robbins talks, and so I've learned a lot of things that I was able to just extract from all this information that I'm bringing in my head, I guess.
Right, exactly, yes.
And I'm not a big reader, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Same here.
That's how I roll.
Right.
And you were probably listening to them on tape.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, back in the old days, you had to drive to the library, you had to get these tapes. They had a limit of 20. You had a cassette player. You run out of batteries. No, you're right. Nowadays, oh my gosh, it's so easy. I mean, it's right there all the time. Wow.
Yeah, you got to just search it. You got to search for it.
Yeah.
And Gary Vaynerchuk has been a big I think influence on me.
Nice.
With the way he speaks, because like you said, it's this person, that person, they're all preaching pretty much the same stuff, but in a different format, in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You got MP Gary and you got MP Tony,
Right.
And it's but the same book, though. But
yes.
So because Gary Vaynerchuk, as vulgar as he can sound, he's never really vulgar. I guess that's the wrong word.
Okay.
He just cusses. So as aggressive, I guess, as he sounds, he says he means a lot of good, and he wants to help, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And just a lot of the stuff I've been able to learn from him in business as well has been tremendously helpful. So that's cool about his format. He talks about a lot of business stuff too.
Yeah.
So I do like that part about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it too. So that's the great thing where the internet has leveled the playing field, you know, whereas before, you know, in my day, and it is what it is, right? In my day, you would have to apply for college and go to college and take the classes, blah, 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 blah. Nowadays, you can get the exact same education and sometimes better because you're hearing from a Vanderchuck, and no disrespect to a college professor, you know. The Vanderchuck is having to make this stuff real. A professor may just be talking about theory. So in some ways, the education that we have access to nowadays is superior to going to college. Yeah. And I really encourage people, you know, if you want to go to college, I wish I would have, but if you're not in a position to or don't have the money to or whatever, then for the love of Mike, start listening to the right podcast, the right information. Seek, it's out there. It's out there. There is the lack of information is no longer the obstacle that it used to be. It's the lack of ambition and identity. So let's talk about that for a second. Identity is the huge one. So this was one of the coolest things that I learned from Tony Robbins is that, you know, you've got to be able to expand your identity. And really the way you do that is by understanding brain science. So I don't want to get too deep into brain science, but the way to simplify that is brain science can be vastly complex, but the way to understand it easily is think of the brain like a bicep, okay? So if my bicep right now is 12 inches and I want to make it 16 inches, I know that I have to eat a high-protein diet, I have to do certain exercises, and I have to do them in a certain manner, and over the course of time, just by doing the repetition every single day, I will get the result. Yes. Okay, so same thing with the brain. The brain is almost like a bicep in the fact that there is a natural program inside, like the program on the sound mixer here, and it was designed with a certain program. Now, the interesting thing is that as we're growing up, we're children, and we don't know what is true and what is false and what we should listen to and what we shouldn't listen to. Yes. So the three triggers of neural programming are authority figures, intensity, and repetition, repetition. Yes. And when that happens as you're growing up, if you're getting the negative information on that, it builds an identity of limited mindset and limited beliefs, and you can only be a postal worker or a garbage man, this is what I used to be at one point in time, or a truck driver or whatever. And so if that's your identity, now the cool thing about it is that the brain understands that it has to become its identity. So now we have two choices. Most people's identities have been chosen for them, not chosen by them. Yes. And if you're going to live your entire life with the identity someone else chose for you, then you're probably going to not have a great quality of life, because people who have influenced you, generally speaking, are those who have not achieved the level of success they want to. And therefore, now there becomes a threat, because if you get, as my mother would say, above your raisins, which is a Texas term for above your raisings, but if you go beyond what your categorical societal norm is, your raisins, Tex, then all of a sudden it threatens that person, because, oh my gosh, if my son makes more money or is more successful or happier than I am, then maybe he'll leave me at some point in time, as the amygdala is screaming out there. But that's where the fear comes in. So they want to kind of keep you in your box, so to speak. Yeah. So the main thing is, and this is where I'm going to talk about God here, because this is where it comes down to. So when people look at what is my purpose, what is my direction, what's the meaning of life, I'll tell you what the meaning of life is, and all you have to do is look it up in the Bible. Christ Jesus, whether you believe he was the Son of God or not, was the most influential figure in history. And how can I say that? Well, what is time based off of? BC AD, before Christ, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. And so if somebody is important enough that in the entire time system is based on this guy, he must have been pretty influential, right? So the thing is that here, if I believe he was the Son of God, he comes to earth like that. And so here you have the King of Kings, the Son of the man that created the universe, the entity that created the universe. And instead of a king coming to be served by his people, he says, I did not come here to be served. I came here to serve. So think about this. When you're doing something nice for somebody on a Christmas gift, or giving somebody, a homeless person, a meal or whatever like that, you get this amazing feeling inside. Yes. That's how we're wired to serve, to make somebody else's life better. So if you're in a position where you don't need to be served, but you can serve, then that's what your life should be dedicated to, in whatever skill set or passion or whatever in your life. That's what we need to do, is to serve other people. That's
how you find purpose. That's how you find purpose. That's how you fulfill yourself. JFK said it best. Ask not what you can do for your country, or, backwards.
Yes, yeah. Well, and that's not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing I like about him is he said, and this is a great thing about nowadays, right? He said that one person can make a difference. All people should try to make a difference. That's huge. Yeah. I mean, his philosophies are so simple, but so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, I think it also involves putting in the reps is actually not just listening to the books or not just listening to the podcast, is actually doing the work too. You know, you got to actually physically go out and do things.
Yeah.
You can listen to everything all you want, but like Gary Vaynerchuk always says, you can't read about push-ups.
Right.
You can, but you ain't gonna do nothing for you.
Yes.
So yeah, you got to also like put it in practice as well. Those ideas, those concepts, and really, because it's crazy how interconnected exercise and the mind is. So it's
yes. Oh my gosh.
So it's not only those philosophical reps. You also got to put it. You got to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And taking care of yourself will help you have a stronger foundation.
Oh yeah.
For growing and hopefully getting out of a bad spot if you're in a bad spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about physiology. It's all about the chemicals in your body that make you feel certain ways. So you're right. When you're exercising, the muscle's working better, the blood's flowing stronger, the mind is working quicker. So yeah, physiology is what it's all about. Whether you take a drug or you take an energy drink, you're going to have a different reaction in your body when those chemicals change. So you're right. It's very important to make sure that you're living a balanced life with the right food, the right exercise, the right thoughts in order to be able to function properly.
Okay. Yeah.
So now let's talk about how do you do that. And this is giving way more bonuses. Here's free stuff, guys. I'm giving this to you. I'm not charging for it. But so you go to the gym, you do bicep push-ups or whatever like that to build the muscles. How do you change the brain? How do you change the identity? How do you reprogram that? Through affirmations in the mirror with intensity. What did we talk about before? The neural reprogramming factors are authority, intensity, and repetition. How do we do that? How does Tony Robbins do that every morning before he wakes up?
Gratitude meditation is what he does.
Bingo, yes. Yeah, he's talking to himself. This is going to be a great day. I'm an amazing person. I'm here to serve God. What can I do for these kind of people? I've done this before. I want to do this now. So what you want to do is you want to look in the mirror because now you've heard of mirror neurons, right? Or you haven't?
I don't know.
Okay, so in neuroscience, one of the things they found out years ago, you've heard the saying, monkey see, monkey do. Well, what that means, it came from a French experiment where the French scientists were taking monkeys and they would like peel a banana and they had whatever things in the monkey's brain to figure out where it's responding. But they noticed that when they would do a certain action, the monkey would have a reaction like the monkey's doing it himself, even though he wasn't. So mirror neurons are, when you see something that's very emotional to you, you'll get the exact same feelings in your brain, which creates the different physiology in your body. Case point is when you watch a movie, that's the most easy example of mirror neurons.
Yeah.
You'll be sitting in a room like this where it's dark and
knowing everything's fake.
Knowing everything's fake consciously, but not subconsciously.
Yes.
So you're sitting in a room with all these people and you're hearing the sounds, and all you're doing is you're hearing sounds and you're seeing flashes of light. But because the images by the subconscious seem real to you, that's why you cry, or that's why you get angry, or that's why you get fearful. Mirror neurons are able to trigger this in your mind. So when you start your morning off, you want to look in the mirror and you want to be able to have your script that you don't read, but you memorize, because now we're internalizing this kind of stuff. And you want to say with intensity, today is going to be a great day. There will be bad things that will happen. And when they happen, I'm going to choose to respond in this manner, not let myself react in that manner, because I am here for a higher purpose. There are people who need me in this world. I can do something. I can do anything to make a difference. And I commit myself today to make sure that I'm going to do the absolute best I can. And you start your morning with that, you are rewiring the brain. You're letting the negative neural circuitry atrophy while strengthening that. So the little bicep becomes an Arnold Schwarzenegger type brain, because now you're intentionally creating positive neural circuitry, and now everything that happens to you, instead of having the negative reaction, you're going to have a greater space between stimulus and response, and you're going to choose a response, and a more mature response, a curiosity response, and bottom line, a response of love. Because people don't need any more hate in this world. We need to stop reacting to people, and we need to say, okay, there's something going on behind the scenes that I don't know about that is causing you to feel this way. Rather than me be somebody else who's going to dump that on you, how about I be a bucket and you pour whatever's dealing with your life into my bucket. I can take it. I want to take that. I want to take that off your mind. And when we clear that out, now let's talk about you and let's talk about that issue.
I'm going to go hit that button.
Okay. And we'll be right back on Colorado Springs Business Podcast.
Nice. All right. You're on fire, Chuck.
Well, and this is my passion. This is my passion.
Yes.
Again, God just brought this to me years ago. So the cool thing was, I was to go back a little bit, right? I'm in the Postal Service and I'm hearing Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, and here's what you do to improve your life. And I started doing those things. Then I got promoted to union steward, then union treasurer, then political director. And then the charity fundraising is the experience that shaped my life and awakened what I should be doing in this world. So I was, there's the thing called the Combined Federal Campaign in the Postal Service. that allows postal and federal and military personnel to donate money from their paycheck to the charity of their choice. Well, what I would do is give little presentations to my coworkers, and I did a pretty good job on that. And then they said, hey, you should have a charity speaker come in because, again, they're going to tell the stories. You're telling the facts about how these numbers help out, but they're going to share the stories. And so I started bringing those people in. And when I hear about organizations called Mercy Ships, and it's like, well, Colorado, we have ships. But Mercy Ships is where they take ships and go to foreign countries that have bad water. And when you have bad water, sometimes people have these massive tumors to the point they can't eat or breathe. And so they have these entire ships full of doctors who will go over to these countries and just do surgeries to get rid of these things. And when you hear about that, or you hear about a hospice, or you hear about a baby born with half a brain that through love and affection and tension is able to survive beyond the odds, or you hear about the drug abuses, or just on and on and on, and you hear those stories, then it's like you change the direction of your life, because when you get off of work, so to speak, you don't go home and just watch TV for the sake of entertainment. You have these stories and this burden that is on your heart. And it's like, you think back to what St. Paul said, and St. Paul said, all that is needed for evil to prevail is for good people to stand by and do nothing, which is what most people do. We're just so caught up in our own lives and trying to survive that we're not thinking about helping other people out. But when you see the videos and the stories and the pictures and the names, and you hear about this, it's like, man, this stuff is out there. I wasn't aware about that. But now that I am aware about that, I can't help but try to do something to alleviate that, to reduce that pain, to improve the quality of life. And so that now becomes a Christ-like mission in that I need to serve other people. If I have the ability to encourage somebody or help somebody or encourage them to get into business or whatever, then I need to be doing that. And the difference is, when I was before that, my big thing was I'd get off of work and I'd go to King Soopers before midnight to try to get a beer before they cut off liquor sales and get a horror flick and box of donuts. Like, whoo, I'm doing good, man. I'm happy. And it's like, no. Now that I'm on this lifestyle, it's like I'm healthier, I'm exercising, but I'm serving people. And then you'll run into people years later and they'll walk up and they're just so grateful. It's like, because you said this one little thing, or you did this one little thought, or you worked with me for like 3 months. It's like, you shared with me what Tony shared with you and Christ shared with all of us. And now I understand what life is all about, for crying out loud. Now life not only has meaning, but life has purpose, and now life has legacy, because I'm going to take my influence and put it out to my little world, who is going to put it out to their little world. And it just goes in the big ripple effect. That's the cool part.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what brought you out to Colorado Springs? Are you from here?
Born here, yeah, native. So that was an easy one.
Nice. You born here? You said your mom was from Texas?
Yeah, she was from Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, they had me here though. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you're born and raised in Colorado Springs? Yeah,
I just went to the Marine Corps for 4 years and then came right back because it's so great out here and family's here. So yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. I didn't know that. I thought you were a transplant.
No.
Nice.
Native,
Yeah, sweet.
Memorial Hospital down the street here. Yeah.
Nice.
It's great.
So how's that like growing up in Colorado Springs?
Oh, it's been amazing. When we grew up as a real small hick town, I remember that when we knew we were getting big and we had our first Applebee's. It's like, oh my gosh, we had a chain restaurant here. Yeah.
Okay, what was before Applebee's?
Oh, mom and pop shops.
And McDonald's probably?
McDonald's, yeah. Of course, McDonald's, right?
Yeah, you got to have McDonald's.
Right.
Well, they got to have you.
That's true. They build McDonald's and they build a town around it nowadays. So
yeah. No, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great, though. I mean, the responsible growth coming out there. And now our city planners are just rocking it out. We have the Olympic and Paralympic Museum, which I want to plug that for a second.
Okay.
The executive director, Chris Lytle, actually used to work at the Smithsonian's in D.C. And I think, although he didn't say this, but when he was out in D.C., he probably went to the Holocaust Museum and saw the powerful effect of connecting you with somebody who had gone through this based on your age and gender and things like that. And then as you're going through this museum, you're reading about this person's story, right? And stories are impactful. Yes. Now you don't just look at something for the point of historical education. You're experiencing something through the eyes of somebody who went through that, and there before the grace of God, it could have been you. So what Chris Lytle did for the Olympic and Paralympic Museum, which rocks, finally, but he'll have this thing where you go into this RFID card and you go into a database of over 12,000 athletes, and you're going to find one that is very close to you. So now as you go through the museum, you're saying, okay, wow, here's what this person went through, and here's the struggles, and here's what they challenged.
They match it to who you are?
They match it to who you are.
Whoa.
Because what he wants you to do is he don't want you to come out of there educated. He wants you to come out there inspired. Connected, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether you want to become an athlete or just improve your quality of life, now you're seeing, and again, it's all about the stories, the biographies. Read the biographies, please.
I love biographies.
Yes. It's like, people went through this worst stuff and now they're doing, imagine Tony Robbins, the guy's like 6'4", sleeping in a Volkswagen. How do you even pull, it's like clowns would have a hard time doing that.
Tony, I never thought about that predicament.
Yes. I've slept in my car before and it's hard enough for me at 5'10" in the back seat. I actually sleep in the trunk. If you have to sleep in your car, here's a trick for you, right? you take the back seat down, you put half your body in the trunk and the first half of the seat, you can stretch out. Yeah, it works.
So when you found Tony in self-discovery or why can't I think
self-development?
Self-development.
SD, maybe we'll say SD like SD card. There we go.
Well, I mean, I know the word, but my brain just keeps farting. So how old were you when you discovered self-development?
Right. So I was in the post office probably the first 5 years, and I'm guessing age 25, just round the numbers off. Yeah.
I think like mid-20s is where like you start really starting to like start learning about yourself and like really have like start developing a real moral compass, I guess. Maybe not a moral compass, but I think things start getting real, like when you're in your mid-20s.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that it's either, I don't know if you know about the thing where like a lot of the famous musicians die around 27. It's like they call it the 27 Club or something like that.
Really? Wow.
Janis Joplin, and,
right.
Kurt Cobain, and a bunch of people around 27. I think around that age is when you either decide to live or die.
Interesting. Wow.
And like I don't know, that's just arbitrary right there. I'm sure it's just a number.
Right.
But I think
you're seeing a pattern though.
But yeah, I do see a pattern. I think there's something in mental development that happens around like mid-20s, at least for males.
Right.
I think it's like earlier for females, but
right.
I'm not no scientist, so I don't know.
You're very intuitive though. So the mental development we're talking about is the prefrontal cortex.
Yes, it solidifies kind of.
It does. Yes, it finally completes growing.
Yes.
So that's why from the insurance world, people under age 25 pay a higher rate for auto insurance than after age 25 because you don't have the full development to make executive decisions quickly. So yeah. So you're exactly on target. 25 is when the prefrontal cortex is fully developed.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. So there's something cool about that, I think, and I'm just getting started.
Right,
I'm only 28, so it's like, and
so,
still got a lot of ground to cover.
Oh yeah, and you always do. Yeah.
Yes.
But now you're getting the ability to be able to process those thoughts, that philosophy, those beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting a connection there.
Well, that's why I love brain science because there's so much to it, and we label people as crazy or whatever like that. But I mean, the brain is it's the most complex organ in the universe. 100 billion individual nerve cells crammed up here, and each one of those nerve cells can connect with 40,000 others.
Yes.
And through synaptic connections, so it's like that's how you can think your way into almost anything. Or that's what I love about in one of my archetypes. Carl Jung years ago, a psychologist, had archetypes where he'd have the warrior or this, and Tony Robbins does that. But the cool thing about it now is, whereas in the old days you had to imagine an archetype, now you watch them on Marvel Comics, right?
Oh yeah.
And to me, my archetype is Iron Man, Tony Robbins, because Tony Stark. I'm saying Tony Robbins will love that. Tony Robbins and Tony Stark, you got to get together, right? But the thing about Tony Stark that I love about is that he knows he can always think his way into a solution.
Yes.
So no matter what happens, he's got the brilliance, the capacity. It's okay. I'll just figure this out. I'll find a solution. Boom, problem solved.
Having that confidence. If he didn't have that confidence, then it wouldn't be there. Like,
exactly.
Even if he was just the same smart level, level of smartness, level of geniusness.
Yeah.
Without that confidence, belief is everything. I was listening to that thing that was playing in the Bluetooth. Yeah. That Tom Bilyeu episode that was on playing.
Exactly.
It was with Rob Dyrdek, and he was talking about belief is above all everything. Like it's even above. It trumps technical skill and all that stuff, because if you don't have the belief, the thing's dead.
Exactly.
It's dead in the water.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of with this podcast, like the belief of this podcast becoming a super success is like strong in me.
Right.
And like it's manifested itself into the studio. It's manifested itself into an income.
Right.
So it's like it's interesting, like how strongly I believe in the growth of this podcast, and that belief only came about like a month and a half ago when I rebooted the show, because I shut it down because of COVID, because I only wanted to be in person. Right. And before that, it was weekly podcast, and like it wasn't like I had no ambitions or goals to make it like the biggest podcast, or even to make money off of it for real.
Interesting.
Like direct money off of it, because my one of my interests in starting it was getting to know the community better, and I figured that would be a really good way to have have conversations with them, and then that idea evolved into. I quickly realized within the first few episodes how powerful it can become. I didn't have the big belief until like a month and a half ago, which I started it back in December. Right. Just for a time frame. So it's almost a year old, but
it's coming up.
So I quickly realized the original intent was to get connected with the community better, because I've only been out here for a year and a half, and building connections was very vital for me at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't have no family. I didn't have any any friends or no connections out here when I first came out here.
Man.
So it's like I quickly saw that it was more than just me getting connections and connecting with the community. It was bigger than that because I was helping and I was giving a platform for business owners to talk about their business. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other podcasts out there that do something similar, but I felt strong about it. Like I felt strong like in the ability for it to grow in that direction.
Exactly.
But then about a month and a half ago, I've really started like having bigger dreams for the podcast. Like just because it says Colorado Springs does not mean it has to be limited to Colorado Springs, because it's also a business podcast.
Yes.
And all the principles that we talk about here can be applied anywhere.
Yes.
In business. So I do believe that it can have the potential to be in the top 10 category of business podcast, which would be super amazing. And I don't have any doubt that it can't. So it's like we're making it happen, and that's why we're here today, every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm talking about belief because I think it's very strong. I think it trumps everything else, and I do believe that you'd make your own luck. I do believe that there is random luck and there's refined luck, and so it's like you got to make that luck. Only the things that you do, and that's like one of Rob Dyrdek's sayings, or not sayings. I think his Twitter bio says "make your own luck," but he also has like a shirt brand that says "make your own luck." You make your own luck. Yeah. And I think that's a cool. Just understanding that small sentence can be. It's probably been life changing for like thousands of kids because he influences like the skateboard community. Because he started out doing like skateboard stuff and. Was sponsored and was drinking and smoking a bunch of weed all the way till he was 24, and then like his sponsors were like, "It's time to let you go." So it's like he's like, well, he wasn't ready for that, so he kind of like really started grinding, and he's built an empire basically. Like he's basically the face of MTV right now.
Really? Wow.
In a sense, he does the show Ridiculousness. I don't know if you've seen that show.
I've seen a couple episodes. Yeah.
So he hosts that show, and that's kind of like what he had an idea for a show. He pitched it. He got it. That's me with this podcast. I had an idea for the podcast. I pitched it to myself.
Right. Hey, yes. Your own board of directors. Yes.
Well, I pitched it to the world, actually, is what I did. I think that's the cool thing about the way technology and Spotify and all this YouTube and all this stuff, it's taken that bottleneck of only like 5 corporations being able to control all the content that gets put out. So it's opened up open source knowledge essentially now.
Yes.
So
and look what
like
Google has done in that. Yeah, for everyone. Yeah.
Google is amazing.
Yeah.
It's game changing. But I don't want this podcast to run too long. I do like to keep them under an hour. Is there anything specific you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, so if a genie gave me 3 wishes, let's make this podcast 3 more hours, okay? Because we got a lot to cover here.
Yeah.
No, but very quickly, so this is the thing to wrap it up with is beliefs like you talked about. And here's what really holds people back. And this is one thing that I struggle with on occasion, but I tell everybody is, here's my saying, right? Never, ever allow your present circumstances, never allow your present circumstances to limit your unlimited potential. And so if we put that into a metaphor, think about most people sit in the car and they're looking in the rearview mirror. Here's what's happened in the past. Here's what I've done in the past. Here's where I'm limited at. Here's what's going to happen. It's like, yeah, that's got you where you're at now, but look at the front windshield. It's like when you think about what you're capable of, this is why I would encourage you to study the brain. If you can work out a bicep, you can work out a brain, you can do the morning affirmations, you can find your passion, and then little by little, just like you did, you're a great example of this. You had a small idea for the podcast back in December. Now it's tremendously big and it's looking to be even bigger. So one of these sayings are so powerful. Martin Luther King had said, you don't have to see the entire staircase, just take the first step. And then you'll be at the second step automatically.
Yeah, and then the third step's right after that.
Right. So bottom line is don't let whatever's happened to you in the past or where you're at right now limit what you're capable of. It's like what you've done before has got you here, but if you'll change your thinking, if you'll develop a plan, find your passion, and most of all, realize we're here to serve people, then you're going to develop an amazing life. So it's all about belief. And you have to make sure that you actually believe it so you don't have the inner voices saying, yes, I want to do this. Well, no, you can't, because it's like everybody needs to be on the same page. Hey, this brain is capable of anything I want to think it into. Now let's go find out how we're going to save the world and serve the world.
I think that might be the inherent thing that you were talking about. I've always had the audacity to believe, I guess.
Okay, yes.
Believe big.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that one of my friends, one of my high school friends, he said that years ago. He's like, man, I don't know how you just do it.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
He said, I don't think I can. And that was him and his own limiting beliefs. He didn't think he could, so he didn't.
Yeah.
But, him seeing me like do these go out there and try to start these random businesses, like a can man business, whatever business. Is
Right.
like, man, you just, I admire that about you, is what he said. So I think maybe that's the intrinsic part that I have in me is that ability to dream big, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And this is a rare thing, but it is very unique to you, though. I mean, it's a good skill, quality, yes.
I like squill.
Squill, yes, yeah. But no, you're right. I mean, most people don't have that. It's really, that's your gift. That's your gift.
So for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wanted to plug Frank's coaching collaborative?
Yes.
I think we did that at the beginning too, but we'll do it again at the end.
Yeah, so I met Frank Sinclair, who you've had on the show before, an amazing story. A man who, very interesting, just like Tony Robbins, right? He was raised in a bad environment, then he goes into the Air Force, becomes very successful, and now the identity, just like Tony Robbins did, starts messing with itself. And he's sitting there at this great environment and says, this is not who you are, this is not how you're raised, you're not getting above your raisins internally, you need to self-sabotage to get back to who you really are, because you're really a fake, and when people find out, oh man, you're done. So he gets into alcohol and
they call
becomes
that
homeless.
imposter syndrome, I think.
Yes, imposter syndrome. Oh, and CEOs have this. Celebrities have this. Yes. I mean, identity within the human mind is much more powerful than we give it credit for it.
And I didn't mean to cut you off in the story.
No.
Yeah.
This is an interaction.
Yes.
And so then he becomes homeless, living in Acacia Park, and then one person can make a difference. All people should try. This man's walking through the park, sees Frank over there, and he takes him into his home. And Frank lives in this man's home for years. This guy builds up his belief system, corrects the identity issues, and then Frank rocks it out. And now he is helping other people out. So, so bottom line is, when I met Frank and heard that story and I saw what he's doing, it's like, Frank, you have an amazing story. You have an amazing gift and skill. We really need to, for the sake of God, the world, and society, expand that. So how about we start expanding what you do by bringing in other people with different skill sets, or modalities, as we call them in coaching, so we can build a collaborative, and that way, no matter what people's issues are, we're going to have a group of coaches that are going to plug you in where you need to be to get you where you are by handing us off on different modalities as you progress in your identity and your skill sets. So we have a coach. So calling all coaches out there that have a servant leader's heart, not a pocketbook heart, but if you've got a servant leader's heart and you want to make a difference in the world and you want to become part of this coaches collaborative, call me at 719-425-9575. I will get your email. I'll do a quick screening to see if you'd be a good fit. And if so, we'll plug you into this collaborative, because it is the next model within the world of coaching, because it's coordinated, it's organized, and it's servant leadership based. So again, call Chuck Bader at 719-425-9575. We'll get you plugged in, because this is an amazing work. You should be on this thing at the ground floor. There's no cost whatsoever, but it is going to help generate business for you. It is a for-profit entity, but it's more for the servant leadership, the common good.
And I think that ties into what we were talking about, how Tony, Zig, and Jim Rohn and all of them saying the same messages, but they connect with people differently.
Yes.
So we can help you find that person within that coaching collaborative group that you align with most.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I think just wanted to add that in there.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, that was the big point, is to promote that collaborative. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So Chuck, this has been amazing.
Yes.
You've been on fire. I can't. Is that microphone hot?
It's like, ooh, come on.
Yeah. All right, man. So yeah, this has been the Colorado Springs Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.